There's something very magical about fall. The air feels different, the soil feels richer, and everything that we do feels like a little investment in spring. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara. I garden in the Bay Area, and maybe you found my channel because of my beautiful green stalks, of which I've got 14, and I've got a ton of videos. Or maybe you found my channel because you love saffron, and I've been gardening and growing saffron for the past 4 years. This is season 5. I've documented my whole journey, and I've got 100 blooms so far and counting. Either way, I'm so glad you're here. So today we're going to be tackling a bunch of early November tasks. I'm going to be planting up these green stalks with root vegetables, and I've got some special tips to share with you on how to grow phenomenal root vegetables straight from Susie, the lead gardener in GreenStalk. We're going to be ending the video with a GreenStalk reveal as well. I've got a cool new winter color that has not yet been released, and I'm going to show you a sneak peek of that. And I'm doing a combination GreenStalk color for the first time, so you're going to see that as well. And in between, we're going to be doing all kinds of other fun things. We're going to be planting garlic. We're going to be doing cuttings of basil and uppotting them. We're going to be just doing a lot of things around the garden, composting and others that are very typical in my daily routine as a fall gardener in the California Bay Area, where we garden year-round. Okay, let's start with planting up this green stalk. I'm going to be planting it, like I said, with root vegetables. I'm going to be doing beets and radish and carrots. And I want to share with you Susie, the head gardener of GreenStalk, her special tip on how to grow root vegetables well. So she says that she's tried growing carrots many times and with varying levels of success, but she had the most success recently. She did an entire tower with carrots and she got just a phenomenal harvest. And there was one thing that she did different, actually. Yeah, two things, technically. Number one, she used bone meal in the soil mix. Now, bone meal, for those of you that are familiar with the macronutrients that plants need, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the way I think about it is up, down, all around. So nitrogen is for growth on the top, phosphorus is for root development, and potassium is for all-around growth. It helps with strengthening cell walls and just helps the plant grow really well. So think about that. Up, down, all around. NPK. So this is the middle letter, the P, the phosphorus, and bone meal rich in that. The thing about phosphorus, though, is phosphorus does not travel, unlike the other nutrients that travel, as you water it and things. Phosphorus does not. It kind of stays put where you place it in the soil. So you want to really mix in the phosphorus into the place that the root is going to develop for the plant. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And then there was one more thing that she said she added, and I believe she said she added kelp meal. Now, kelp meal is a really great overall fertilizer, also helps with that cell wall development. It has growth hormones in it, and it really helps the plant. I don't have kelp meal, I do have the liquid, so I'm going to be using this as the liquid fertilizer, and let's see whether they do any better than they have in the past. I've grown some fantastic root vegetables, though, not necessarily carrots, but beets. I grew the biggest beet I've ever grown in my green stalk. So yeah, I've got that to compare against, and I've grown radishes fairly well too. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit in each pocket, and I'm going to mix it in, and then I'm going to plant up the vegetables. I'm going to show you how I keep them nice and moist while they are germinating. I do have seed houses and they work great, but I've used them all up. So I've got my own DIY, and I'll show you that. I'm going to be growing cherry bell radish. This is one of the most rewarding crops I've ever grown. It grows from like seed, from like today to harvest in like 25 days. Can you believe that? So cherry bell radish grows really well in the green stalk. I've grown it before. I'm going to be using these Detroit dark red beets. I've not had very much success growing these particular beets before, so let's see if they do better in the green stalk. And then short and sweet carrots. Now, I have to actually thin these. I've not got the pelleted form, and carrot seeds are so really teeny tiny. And in order to get nice, decent sized carrots, you want to make sure that they are about maybe, you've got to think about the dimension of the eventual carrot and then make sure that you provide enough space between them. So I'll have to come back and thin pretty aggressively. So I'm going to go ahead and plant these up. And radish is one of those things that you want to plant in succession. So because they produce and then they're done, right? That's the thing about root vegetables. You pull them out and they're done. And oh, by the way, eat the leaves. They're edible. I like to replant once every maybe 3 weeks, maybe even once a month. I love radish, so I actually go even more frequent than that when my in-laws are visiting. So I've got these little labels, these plant markers. They are fantastic because they do double duty. So they're garden staples basically that are bent, and you can use this to use string to tie your plants up. So they function as kind of double duty as a stake as well, and they're sturdy as heck. I'm going to do 5 per pocket, and I may thin it to 3, which is the recommended, but I like to go a little more heavy-handed because, hey, that's what I like to do. And then, you just need to briefly sort of rub it in like this, and then I'm going to water it in properly as well, so it gets a nice start in this beautiful, well-amended soil. So the carrots, you see how tiny those seeds are? It's so easy to be heavy-handed with them, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be brutal, and I'm going to thin them, because with carrots, if you don't thin them, you're not going to get big carrots. So you have to be brutal about it. Now, you can thin them actually when they start growing quite rapidly. Carrots are notorious for taking forever to germinate, and then they take forever to actually start seeming like they're doing something. So you got to be patient with carrots, but then once they start growing actively, oh my gosh, they really take off. And that's when you can come and thin them out, because you can see which ones are growing really strongly. And then finally, beets. Now, the beet seeds look like this. And did you know that beet seeds actually contain multiple plants in each seedling? So keep that in mind when you're planting. That's also something you're going to need to thin, because you're going to have 2 or 3 seedlings popping up from each of these, and they're going to compete for space. You eventually want to end up with, depending on the size of the vegetable, but roughly 3 beets per pocket, just like you're doing with the carrots, just like you're doing with the radish as well. So 3 to 5 is what I go for. So I have put a little bit of soil on top of all the seeds, and I'm watering them in nicely, because you want really the seeds to adhere to a moist surface. So make sure that you press them down, water them in, and then I wanted to show you these. These are these little plastic things that I've cut to the exact shape of the pockets. And these are basically some extra fabric that I had, plastic fabric that I had when we were redoing our lawn chairs. And this lets a little bit of light through. So I like to use these to cover the seeds. The thing about it is, as soon as the seeds germinate, you do need to remove this. So after about 3 or 4 days, come every day and check. And as soon as you see the seeds starting to germinate, especially the carrots, because they're very thin and skinny, remove these. So the seed houses work very well though. So if you've got the seed houses, yeah, you don't need something like this. But this is a good cost-efficient alternative as well. So you can see up close how I've done this. Now, I don't really need these for the beets and for the radish, mainly for the carrots, because you don't want them to dry out and they take a little bit longer to germinate. But the main reason I've put them on everything is because I've got squirrels. They'll come and dig up everything. So this will help protect them. The seed houses are great for that, by the way. And I've also used paper. You can use anything, just something to keep the moisture in. The nice thing about this is that it lets water through, so I don't have to remove it in order to water it. Now, just because I just can't help myself and I love a good experiment, I'm going to do this other house. I just planted up that one behind. I'm going to do this one exact same way, except I'm not going to be using the bone meal and the kelp fertilizer, just to see whether it makes a huge difference. And I've got really good compost that I've used, so that actually contains a lot of the nutrients. So that bone meal really essential? We'll find out. All right, done planting up my towers with my root vegetables, and now I have to show you my saffron blooms. They are absolutely exploding and they look so gorgeous. We are in the middle of what I would consider peak saffron blooming season. So every day I come out here and there's just a lot of blooms. Now, the way that I harvest them is I don't actually remove the entire flower. Some people do that. In fact, that's how the farmers do it. I like to leave the blossoms because I get to enjoy them for at least 2 or 3 days, because that's how long they bloom. But I do have to harvest the stigma right away. So this little plot of land is where I let my saffron overwinter, and I didn't dig them up or try anything funky with them, like restarting them in containers. And look at all these blooms, you guys. Oh my goodness, so much saffron today. Let's just harvest this right here. Just go in there and grab it and yank it out. So this is the stigma. This is what the real saffron spice comes from, not the yellow part. This. And if you happen to pull it out and there is a little bit of a yellow strand attached to it, remove that. You only want it from this point onward. This is the precious and most expensive and most delicious, exotically flavored part of the saffron. And now you know why it's so expensive to grow saffron, because each of these little things that need to be harvested takes a little bit of effort. Look at all these acorns, you guys. This is garden gold. Let me show you how I use them in my compost. One of the biggest disadvantages, or actually advantages, in my garden is that I am surrounded by oak trees. Beautiful, really ancient oaks. But every fall, they drop their acorns by the ton. My entire garden is just covered in acorns, and the squirrels love it. But I don't. Number one, they fall on my head and often almost give me a concussion. I think the squirrels actually send them my way. But the other thing is they start growing everywhere and they try to make my backyard into a forest. I have to clear them up, and I have to actually change the viability of the seeds so that they will no longer grow. That is why I would chip my acorns. Now I got this little portable wood chipper made by a company called Sunjo. Just got it on Amazon, and it's just great for grinding acorns. It's not very good at grinding twigs and things. Things just tend to get stuck in there. Leaves just sort of get crushed and move through, but it's fabulous when it comes to grinding acorns. Now, acorns are completely loaded with nutrients. I mean, they're a great protein source, fat source. I mean, there's a reason why squirrels love them so much. It really helps them get through the winter. And they are a great nitrogen source as well when you crush them, when they're fresh like this. And I use them in my compost heap, and they generate a ton of nitrogen and really get my compost cooking. And I'll show you that in a minute. So you see, it grinds it up really nicely. Okay, I'm going to empty the crumbled acorns into this bin. But before I do that, I want to show you. I actually put some acorns in here a few days ago. I have stirred it up a couple of times, but I want to show you how much steam is being generated by this pile. So first you can see that the acorns have actually started disintegrating. There's some greenish kind of fungus that is building on them. And I can actually feel how warm this is. But if I turn it, I've got this metal stick that I am turning this with. This is a steaming hot pile. It is so warm in here. See all the steam coming out. All right, I'm going to put another load of acorns in here. And I'll just keep adding wood chips. That will help with the carbon content and yard waste as well. I did the same in this. This is a lovely composter that I got from Vego garden. This really is how I turn my compost, you guys. I just take this metal rod and I stick it in here and I just move it back and forth, or I might twirl it around a little bit. All you're trying to do is get some air in there, so don't make things harder for yourself. I mean, you do not have to turn out the entire pile. This works amazingly well. I've been composting for years and I have been only doing it this way, and I get amazing compost. All right, time to get our fresh load of acorns in here. Just give it a little mix up and we're done. Come back in a couple of days and give it another twirl. So this is what happens after the acorns are done with their thing. The leaves drop. Look at this gorgeous oak tree. Yeah, the leaves drop and they cover up all of the acorns. It's practically impossible to get to them. I mean, that's how nature works. You plant a seed and then you got to bury it, right? Leaves are really difficult to chip in a wood chipper. They just kind of go right through and they just make the process really difficult because they're kind of coming in the way and they're very bulky. So you want to get the acorns before the leaves cover them up. So I want to show you my little bleach bottle garden over here. I'm a big fan of recycling wherever I can. This whole sustainability thing, really important that you recycle plastic, especially as much as possible. But you got to be worried about plastic safety though, because there are certain types of plastics that are considered food grade, and then there are others that are not. So I believe it's 1 and 2 and 4 and 5 that are food grade, and anything else, yeah, you don't want to use for growing things because they could potentially leach into your food. But one of the strongest ones that you want to use, one of the most inert ones, are actually the plastic that comes with your detergents. And so these chlorine containers are actually really good, really sturdy, and they are great for this little garden that I've made over here. Let me show you up close. So I actually got this idea from Epic Gardening. He had visited a friend of his who grew really large vegetables, and that person had made this kind of garden. So all you need to do is get a metal rod and hang it on both ends on something. I'm hanging it on a little planter stand here. But yeah, you can fill it up with all kinds of different greens, leafy greens in my case. That's lettuce, that's cilantro. I've got some bok choy, and I've got some dill, and I've got some more that I am getting started over there. So yeah, this is an easy, very inexpensive, actually almost free kitchen garden that you can make in a jiffy. Now do make sure that you add some drainage holes at the bottom. Don't put it all the way at the bottom. You want to put it about an inch from the bottom, because then that way it'll retain some water at least, and you won't have to water as often. So let me know in the comments if you're going to try something like this. I think it's pretty cool. So I just want to show you some other parts of my fall garden. I'm growing a lot of stuff this season in this giant enclosure that my son and my husband made for me just a couple of months ago. It's working out really great. It was intended to keep mostly the squirrels out, and so far, so good. I'll put a link to the video where we made this. It was a piece of work, but it was so worthwhile, because I had literally let all of these beds kind of go fallow because it was really no point. I was not getting anything. Everything was getting eaten by squirrels. I mean, even zucchini, didn't get any this year. They ate everything. So some more saffron growing in containers here. But here are my brassicas. Look at this beautiful broccoli, you guys. This is Bell Star broccoli. It's grown so large, I am actually hoping that it will form a nice little broccoli head by the end of the year. And I've got some cauliflower over there. I've got some Dutch flat white something cabbage here. And on this side, these are actually the siblings of those. They were started at the same time, but they are much smaller because they were planted in the ground just about 2 weeks later than those. But you see the big difference. The weather had cooled down substantially. They just didn't grow as fast. So that's a tip for you guys. Get fall garden started early, and you will maybe get some vegetables in winter. I've also got some carrots that are badly in need of thinning. I'm going to let them grow just a little bit more. This is what I was talking about. They take a little bit of time to really get going, but when they get going, it's craziness. So got to thin those out drastically. And I moved my lemon green stalks inside this enclosure, and the reason is because I want to plant strawberries in them. Now, the squirrels have never let me grow strawberries in my green stalks, so I'm hoping that having them in this enclosure, that will really help the case of me getting some strawberries rather than giving them to the squirrels. But I'm going to have to clean it up and get the strawberries in there. That's another task. And I've got some multiplier onions. This is the first time I'm growing multiplier onions. This is called Shirley Hammond multiplier onions. But the idea is that you plant a bulb, and before you know it, it is producing multiple stems, and it produces multiple little onions underneath. Not very large, little onions, but still very edible as onions, versus something like the Egyptian walking onion, which I've got there. They are grown mostly for the greens. These are actually grown for the little onions that they produce. These are anemones. They are native actually to where I live, this kind of climate. And last year I saw a friend of mine who had beautiful blossoms. This year, when Costco had the big bag, I grabbed one, and I'm so glad I did, because they ran out very quickly. Beautiful flower. If you can grow it, do grow anemone. I've got tons of potatoes growing here. These were all just sprouting in my pantry, so I decided to plant them, and they're all growing so nicely. And then around here, I've got beets. Believe it or not, these are all volunteer beets that I just went around and picked a few seedlings, and now guess what, you guys? I am getting beets. Don't you love free plants? I wanted to show you a little progress update on this self-watering moving planter that I got from Vego garden. It's called a citrus planter, but you can grow any small size fruit tree in it. So I planted this up maybe, a couple of weeks ago. And at the time that I planted it, it had a ton of oranges on it. These are mandarins, by the way, and they were all green. And I think the shock of the transplant, it's making them all ripen. They are teeny tiny and they are all ripening. But hey, that's okay. I've got them in their hopefully final home. And I did a giveaway on this. That giveaway is actually still on until November 3rd, end of day 2025. So if you're watching this before that, do go ahead and get onto that video, like, subscribe, and comment on it, and you will be entered for the giveaway. It's a truly fabulous planter. I highly recommend it. It's got this little indicator that tells me whether I need to refill it, and clearly I do, because you see that? It needs to be something like that if it's full of water. Great planter. My razzleberry green stalks, I have pruned them back drastically. Remember I told you, I think it was actually during my live stream, that they were wider than they were tall. It had been so overgrown, but now I've pruned them back drastically, and I am really hoping that the cooler weather flowers are going to start blooming again, just like in this planter behind here. I've got nasturtiums blooming, I've got sweet alyssum, and I've got all of my snapdragons that are starting to bloom. So exciting. So I've got these galvanized planters that I got on sale on Amazon. It must be about 6 or 8 months ago, and they're doing pretty well actually. I've got my garlic planted in this. This was planted, I believe, end of September. And you can see they're growing nicely. So I'm doing this experiment where I'm going to be planting garlic. End of September, I've planted some in mid-October. I'm going to plant some now, which is early November, just to see whether there's a timing thing where garlic just is better if you plant it earlier versus later. So we'll see how that goes. This was the garlic that I planted in early October. It's all starting to pop out. I've got chicken wire and hardware cloth on all of it. Otherwise, the squirrels just dig it all up. My artichokes are starting to pop up again. Got some more over here. Artichokes are one of those Mediterranean plants that grow really well in my climate, so I am glad I've got them established as perennials. Let's do a little peek into my little greenhouse here and see how the plants that I have started overwintering are doing. This is an absolutely fabulous frost cover that I got again from Vego Garden. Let's see what I got in here. I'm starting cuttings. I've put some tropical plants over here to overwinter. And it's feeling actually a little bit humid over here. I'm sure the tropical plants like the curry leaf and the firecracker plant and the blue butterfly pea are enjoying it. These coleus that I started from cuttings, they are doing well too. And I actually like to overwinter my coleus in my greenhouse because then I don't need to grow them from seed, which is kind of a pain. Oh, look at that. My tulsi is starting to bloom. So speaking of tulsi and basil in general, this is actually a great time to take cuttings if you've still got your basil growing, because Genovese basil, sweet basil particularly, it's an annual, so it's not going to overwinter. Believe me, I've tried overwintering it in my greenhouse indoors. It just does not overwinter. It's an annual. So the way that I do it is I take cuttings at this stage, young cuttings, I'll show them to you in just a second, and then I grow them indoors. Let me show you what they're growing in. Yeah, so they are growing on my kitchen windowsill, you guys. The lighting is kind of bad. So I brought it over here to my kitchen counter to take a better look at it. So this is a self-watering planter. Again, it's got a little indicator over here. It's telling me that the water is kind of low. But oh my goodness, you guys, the basil just grew and grew. And this is during summer. During winter, it grows really well too, because my house is, 70 degrees, and I'm gonna have to backfill some soil, give it a little fertilizer, and I'm gonna have fresh basil all winter long. I really love this planter, you guys. Highly recommend it. I think of all the Vego garden products that I have, this has got to be one of my favorites. So this is how I start cutting. So I'm going to pull one out and show you. I just started them today, so no roots yet. But all you need to do is take a little piece of basil and make sure that it's got a few nodes, maybe 3 or 4 nodes. Remove the leaves from the bottom. So that's what your cutting looks like. Trim off some of the top foliage as well. You don't want too much. And then make a hole in some foil. I've got a little takeout container with water here. And all you need to do is stick this in here. The foil will block out a lot of the sun, prevent algae from forming, so you won't have to change the water as often. And this thing will grow beautiful white roots in just about a week or so. By the way, folks, if you're getting value from this video, if you're enjoying it in any way, do hit that thumbs up. It sure helps the video get around and it helps bring the community together as well. And I am a Vego garden as well as a GREENSTAK affiliate, so I will put links in the description, and I sure would appreciate it if you would support my channel by using those links when you choose to buy products from those companies. I also have a code, GREENLOVE10, that you can use with either company to get $10 off your entire purchase. All right, let's go check out the new GREENSTAK. And now for the grand reveal, GREENSTAK's latest winter color in a never before seen combination. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Snow. Snow is GREENSTAK's latest winter color, and it's white, but it's kind of got a little hint of cream in there. Let me bring you up close and show you what it looks like. Isn't it gorgeous? Especially with that glacier blue. This is the first time that I'm doing color combinations, and I am so excited about this combination. Can't wait to fill it up with all those flowers. Let me show you the planter up close. So I got mine in basket weave, and you can see actually this color is pretty true to what it looks like. The camera is doing a nice job, my Samsung Galaxy, and it is kind of just a gentle off-white. Let's call it vanilla, but you know, Snow's the official name, and it looks just perfect with the glacier blue. So lovely winter colors, and these are the plants that I'm going to be putting in it. I've got all kinds of violas and pansies. I've got chrysanthemums. I've got some lantana. I've got a couple of other plants as well that I'm going to bring over. But let's go ahead and fill up this gorgeous planter. I've also got this one, and I've kind of made them opposite, you know, blue, white, white, blue, white, blue. And I forgot to get the gray discs that go in between when I got an extra tier for each of these 3-tier originals that I got. And so I'm waiting for those. But I'm not going to fill this one up. I'm going to do only this one. And then when the gray saucers are here, we'll do this one as well. So I've already got some painted daisies that I've planted in the bottom tier. So these grow no more than like 1 or 2 feet tall at the most under best circumstances. I have a feeling that I can keep them at this level. Famous last words. I tried to do that with my zinnias the last time I filled up my yellow, if you guys remember, and they grew just super tall. I couldn't keep up with them. But let's see how the daisies do. But I also got some sage, and I'm going to be, these are cuttings, so I'm going to be leaving some spots for them. But yeah, let's go ahead and plant up these beautiful plants. Wanted to get a head start. Violas I like growing from seed, but they do take a little while to kind of get going, and I just don't have time. I want this to look beautiful very quickly. So some of these things like chrysanthemum and lantana, they're actually perennials. So eventually I'm going to be taking them out of here and putting them elsewhere in my garden, but I want to give them a nice little start in a container that I'm going to be watching carefully so that they take off and they do really well. So let's get this lantana going first. I love lantana. When I was a little kid, we used to actually taste the syrup in these flowers. Apparently they're toxic. I didn't know as a kid, and I'm still alive, so I guess it wasn't that toxic. Getting a little bit root bound here, so I'm going to remove some of the roots. I hope my sister doesn't see this video. I am not using gloves. And let's go ahead and get this thing planted in, just like that. I think it's only, yeah, it's only 1 plant, unfortunately. Sometimes you get 2 plants in 1 container. Wasn't that lucky? It's beautiful chrysanthemum. It's also going to be root bound, I bet, because it's a large pot. Sorry, a large plant in a small pot. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Put this up here, maybe. So I'm sure one of the questions that's on a lot of people's minds is, does white show dirt? It's white, you guys. Yeah, of course it's going to show dirt, but no more than, say, blue. So yeah, just make sure that you wash it down regularly, and you should be fine. Now, I like the lighter colored planters, even though they do show dirt a little bit more than the darker colors, because I've got hard water. I'm just not doing a good job here. Well, I've got hard water, and hard water stains are much more difficult to wash away than a little bit of dirt like this. Let's see whether I can try again. I'm going to remove some of these roots. It's very root bound. There. It's a little bit better. I think that's looking good. I'm going to have to backfill this with a little bit of soil. I can feel that there's a lot of gaps over there. So, all right. This one is Octotus. This is a lovely daisy-like flower that one of my friends gave me last year and grew just beautiful. I love the silvery leaves. I think it's going to have a lovely appearance in this sort of winter-themed planter. Already got some roots. That's good. It's going to take off and grow. The sage also has those kind of silvery leaves. And I've got some lamb's ear growing in other parts of my garden. Hesitant to grow lamb's ear just because it grows like crazy, but it's got lovely silver leaves. So maybe I'll just try and keep it under control. Let me check if the sage has, it's not going to have roots because I only stuck it in here like a week ago. Yeah. So maybe I'll just plant it here and see whether it can root directly where I want it to be eventually. There we go. And then I'm going to keep this lantana for the other planter and this chrysanthemum as well. I've got some lovely violas and pansies. I never remember the difference between the two. There is a difference, but I never remember what the difference is. Let's see, how many plants do we have here? Just one plant. I'm kind of not lucky this time. Often I get like multiple plants, but pansies and violas, you can propagate them from cuttings. So if I'm diligent enough, I can take some stem cuttings as this grows and plant them and make new plants. I'm going to finish this up and let's take a look at how the whole thing comes together. All right, we have it all planted up. I had to actually finish it last night and record only this morning because I lost daylight, but let's give this a quick spin. And yeah, it's going to obviously be filling out once the pansies start blooming. It's going to look gorgeous. I think I'm going to need a few more plants. I'm going to have to buy some more because I've got these two to fill up, but I couldn't resist. I had to put a couple in the lower as well. And yeah, they're looking great. So I'm out here in the early morning in my robe recording my green stalks for you. And I did a little experiment that, I gave AI a picture of this empty green stalk just stacked with the multicolors. And then I gave it a picture of that tray with the flowers in it. And I said, do it for me, plant it up. And it did. And check out the picture that it produced. Yeah, beautiful. I am really hoping that my planter is going to look like that in no time at all when it starts blooming. This AI thing, it's really cool. So let me know in the comments below. Are you dreaming of snow this holiday season? Are you going to do any mix and match? Let me know what you're thinking about. I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. And until next time, live green and love your greens.